Ah, spiders. Creepy little buggers, aren't they? Here's a tale about a lad named Noah who found out just how terrifying his eight-legged friends could be. Let's spin a web of horror with the spider's lair. Chapter 1. The Discovery. Noah was an ordinary boy with an extraordinary fascination for spiders. While other children played video games or watched cartoons, Noah spent hours in his room studying the tiny creatures he kept in glass jars. His room was filled with various species, each one meticulously labeled and catalogued. He loved watching them weave their intricate webs, marveling at the delicate threads that shimmered in the light. Noah's older sister, Ellie, was 13. She found Noah's obsession with spiders both weird and fascinating. While she didn't share his love for the eight-legged creatures, she admired his dedication and often teased him affectionately about his creepy, crawly friends. Their parents found Noah's obsession odd, but harmless. They were supportive, indulging his interest with books on arachnology and trips to the local pet store. They had no idea that Noah's latest find would change their lives forever. One warm summer evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Noah ventured into the overgrown field behind his house. The tall grass rustled in the gentle breeze, and the air was thick with the sounds of chirping crickets and the distant hoot of an owl. Noah had brought his trusty bug-catching kit, determined to find something new and exciting for his collection. Ellie, curious and slightly bored, decided to tag along. As they wandered deeper into the field, they stumbled upon an old, decaying tree stump. It was hollow and covered in moss, with a dark, gaping hole in the center. Noah felt a strange pull toward it, as if something was calling him. He crouched down and peered inside, his flashlight casting eerie shadows on the rotting wood. Inside the stump, Noah saw a spider unlike any he had ever seen before. It was much larger than the others he had collected, with an iridescent sheen to its dark body and eyes that seemed to glow in the dim light. Its legs were long and slender, ending in sharp points that looked almost like tiny daggers. The spider moved with a slow, deliberate grace, its movements mesmerizing and terrifying at the same time. "Noah, look at that," Ellie whispered, a mix of awe and disgust in her voice. Noah's heart raced with excitement and a touch of fear. He carefully reached into his kit and pulled out a jar, his hands trembling slightly. With practiced ease, he captured the spider, making sure not to harm it. As he screwed the lid on tight, he felt a strange sensation, like a faint whisper brushing against the edges of his mind. He shook off the feeling and hurried back to the house, Ellie close behind. She watched with a mix of curiosity and unease as Noah eagerly showed their parents his new find. They were mildly impressed, but mostly relieved that Noah had found something to keep him occupied. They had no idea of the sinister events that were about to unfold. Noah named the spider Leggy and placed it in a terrarium he had prepared just for such a special specimen. The terrarium was large, with plenty of space for Leggy to weave its webs. Noah spent hours watching the spider, fascinated by its beauty and the intricate patterns it created. Ellie often peeked in, her initial disgust giving way to reluctant fascination. As the days turned into weeks, Noah noticed that Leggy seemed to be growing at an alarming rate. The terrarium that once seemed spacious now appeared cramped. Noah's room began to feel smaller with each passing day, the walls closing in as Leggy expanded. Still, Noah's fascination overshadowed any sense of danger. He marveled at how Leggy's webs glistened in the moonlight, creating an eerie yet captivating sight. One night, Noah decided to take a closer look at Leggy's web. He grabbed a magnifying glass and leaned in, his nose almost touching the glass of the terrarium. As he examined the delicate threads, he noticed something strange. The web seemed to pulse, almost as if it were alive. He blinked, convinced his eyes were playing tricks on him. But the pulsing continued. Suddenly, Noah felt a sharp pain in his head. He clutched his temples, the world around him spinning. The room grew darker, the shadows lengthening and twisting into grotesque shapes. He heard a faint whisper, barely audible but undeniably there. It was Leggy. Noah, the voice echoed in his mind, sending a chill down his spine. You admire my kind, but now it's time for you to understand us. Noah staggered back, his heart pounding. He looked at Leggy, who stared back with unblinking eyes. The spider's gaze was hypnotic, drawing Noah in despite his fear. He tried to speak, but his throat was dry and no sound came out. That night, as Noah lay in bed, he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. He tossed and turned, his mind racing with thoughts of Leggy. The room seemed to close in around him, the darkness thick and oppressive. He finally drifted off into a restless sleep, only to be jolted awake by a soft, skittering noise. He turned on his bedside lamp and was startled to see Leggy, now the size of a dinner plate, sitting on his desk. The terrarium was shattered, glass shards glinting in the lamplight. Noah's heart raced as he stared at the enormous spider, unable to comprehend how it had grown so large so quickly. A strange, invasive thought entered Noah's mind. Noah! The voice was not audible, but a clear presence in his thoughts. He looked around, terrified. Who's there? He stammered, but no sound escaped his lips. It's me, Leggy, the thought continued, sending a chill down his spine. The spider's eyes glowed eerily in the dim light. I've been watching you, Noah. You admire my kind, but now it's time for you to join me. Before Noah could react, Leggy lunged at him. He tried to scream, but his body wouldn't respond. The spider's silk shot out, wrapping around him with incredible speed and strength. In moments, Noah was cocooned in a sticky web, unable to move. Leggy dragged him to the corner of the room where he began spinning an enormous web. Noah struggled, but the silk was too strong. He felt himself being lifted, inch by inch, until he was suspended in the corner of his room, trapped in the web. As he hung there, helpless, Noah's mind raced. He tried to remember everything he knew about spiders. He knew some could be venomous, but Leggy had never shown any aggression before. Now he seemed intent on making Noah his prey. He watched in horror as Leggy moved closer, his fangs glistening. You wanted to understand us, the telepathic voice hissed in Noah's mind. Now you will. Noah's thoughts turned to his parents and Ellie. They were just down the hall, unaware of the nightmare unfolding in his room. He tried to call out, but the silk muffled his voice. Desperation set in. He thrashed against the web, but it only seemed to tighten around him. As the hours dragged on, Noah's room grew colder. The shadows seemed to dance on the walls, creating grotesque shapes that played tricks on his mind. His eyelids grew heavy, but he fought to stay awake, knowing that sleep might mean the end. Welcome back, dearies. Our young Noah is in quite the sticky situation, isn't he? Now let's see what horrors unfold as he transforms further into the web of nightmares in Chapter 2, The Transformation. Noah's transformation had begun, and his mind was a storm of terror and confusion. Suspended in the corner of his room, he felt the venom from Leggy's bite coursing through his veins, burning and altering him from the inside out. The whispers in his mind grew louder, more insistent, as the spider's instincts began to merge with his own. Days passed, and Noah's absence didn't go unnoticed by his family. Ellie was the first to grow concerned. She hadn't seen her brother since the night he found Leggy, and her attempts to talk to him through his door were met with silence. She decided to investigate. One afternoon, while their parents were out, Ellie mustered her courage and approached Noah's room. The door was slightly ajar, and a sickly sweet smell wafted out, making her stomach churn. She hesitated, her hand trembling as she pushed the door open. The sight that greeted her was beyond her worst nightmares. The room was transformed into a grotesque lair, with webs covering every surface. In the corner, suspended in the largest web, was Noah. His body was changing, covered in a dark, chitinous armor. His limbs were elongating, becoming more spider-like with each passing day. "Noah!" Ellie cried, rushing to his side. "What happened to you?" Noah's eyes fluttered open and he tried to speak, but only a garbled noise emerged. His mind reached out to hers, the telepathic link that Leggy had established growing stronger. "Ellie, help me." Ellie's heart broke at the sound of his voice in her mind. "I'm here, Noah. I'm going to get you out of this." As she reached out to touch the web, Leggy emerged from the shadows, his eyes gleaming with a sinister intelligence. The spider hissed and lunged at her, but Ellie jumped back just in time. "Stay away from my brother, you monster!" she yelled, grabbing a nearby book and hurling it at Leggy. The spider dodged effortlessly, but the distraction gave Ellie enough time to think. She realized that she couldn't fight Leggy alone. She needed help, and fast. Ellie ran to her parents' room and grabbed the phone, dialing 911 with trembling fingers. "Please, you have to come quickly," she pleaded with the operator. "My brother is in danger, and there's something terrible in our house." The operator assured her that help was on the way, but Ellie knew it might not arrive in time. She needed to do something to slow Leggy down and protect Noah. Racing back to Noah's room, she grabbed a can of hairspray from her dresser and a lighter from her father's toolbox. She returned to find Leggy advancing toward Noah, who was struggling weakly against the web. "Get away from him!" Ellie screamed, igniting the hairspray with the lighter and creating a makeshift flamethrower. She aimed it at Leggy, and the spider screeched as the flame singed his legs. Leggy retreated, but the fire spread quickly through the web-covered room. Ellie dropped the hairspray and lighter, realizing too late that she had made things worse. "Noah, we've got to get you out of here," she cried, trying to tear the web apart with her bare hands. The silk was strong, but her desperation gave her strength. As the flames grew, Noah's transformation accelerated. His mind was a battleground of human thoughts and spider instincts, but Ellie's presence anchored him. He could feel her love and determination, and it gave him the will to fight. "Ellie, the window." Noah's voice echoed in her mind. She understood immediately. Running to the window, she threw it open and returned to Noah, pulling with all her might. With a final, desperate effort, she freed him from the web, and together they stumbled toward the window. The room was an inferno. the heat and smoke overwhelming. Ellie helped Noah climb through the window, his altered limbs making it difficult. They tumbled onto the grass below, coughing and gasping for air. As they lay on the ground, sirens wailed in the distance. The fire had consumed Noah's room, and the house was quickly becoming engulfed in flames. "We need to move," Ellie said, helping Noah to his feet. "Come on, we can't stay here." Noah's body was weak, but the human part of him fought to stay in control. They stumbled away from the house, collapsing on the neighbor's lawn just as the fire trucks arrived. Firefighters worked to extinguish the blaze, and paramedics rushed to Noah and Ellie. They were taken to the hospital, where doctors marveled at Noah's condition. The changes to his body were unlike anything they had ever seen. As Noah lay in the hospital bed, his mind was still a battleground. Leggy's whispers were faint but persistent. "You cannot escape what you are becoming, Noah. Embrace it." Ellie stayed by his side, holding his hand and refusing to leave him. "We're going to get through this, Noah," she whispered. "I won't let you become a monster." And there you have it, dearies. Noah's transformation has begun, and the battle for his soul rages on. Will Ellie be able to save her brother, or will the darkness consume him? Stay tuned for the final chapter. Chapter 3, The Confrontation. Noah lay in his hospital bed, his body weak and covered in dark, chitinous patches. The venom coursing through his veins made every movement painful, and the whispers of Leggy echoed in his mind. Ellie sat by his side, holding his hand, determined to save her brother from the nightmarish transformation. The doctors were baffled by Noah's condition. They had never seen anything like it, and were at a loss for how to treat him. The only thing they could do was keep him comfortable and hope for a miracle. But Ellie knew that time was running out. As night fell, the hospital room grew eerily quiet. The shadows lengthened, and the air felt thick with dread. Ellie sensed that something was wrong. She tightened her grip on Noah's hand and whispered, "Stay with me, Noah. Don't give in." Noah's eyes fluttered open, and he looked at Ellie with a mixture of fear and gratitude. "Ellie, he's coming for me. I can feel it." Ellie's heart pounded in her chest. "Who's coming, Noah?" "Leggy," Noah whispered. "He won't let me go." Suddenly the room grew colder, and a faint skittering sound filled the air. Ellie turned, her eyes widening in horror as she saw Leggy materialize in the corner of the room. The spider's eyes glowed with a sinister light, and his presence filled the room with a sense of impending doom. "You can't escape, Noah," Leggy's voice echoed in their minds. "You are one of us now." Ellie stood up, placing herself between Noah and the monstrous spider. "You can't have him, Leggy. I'll fight you if I have to." Leggy hissed, his body tensing as he prepared to strike. Ellie glanced around the room, searching for anything she could use as a weapon. Her eyes fell on a metal tray filled with medical instruments. She grabbed a scalpel, her hand shaking but resolute. "Stay away from my brother," she warned, her voice trembling. Leggy lunged at Ellie, his sharp legs slicing through the air. She dodged, barely avoiding the attack, and slashed at him with the scalpel. The blade glanced off his chitinous armor, but it gave her a moment to think. "Noah, you have to fight him," she called out, her eyes never leaving Leggy. "You have to resist." Noah's mind was a battlefield of human thoughts and spider instincts. The venomous whispers of Leggy urged him to give in, to embrace his new nature. But Ellie's voice was a reminder of who he used to be. Ellie, Noah's voice echoed in her mind. I can't hold on much longer. You can, Noah, Ellie insisted. You're stronger than this. Remember who you are. Leggy hissed in anger, sensing Noah's resistance. He lunged at Ellie again, and this time she wasn't quick enough. His legs slashed her arm, drawing blood. Ellie cried out in pain, but she didn't back down. "Leave him alone!" she screamed, slashing at Leggy with all her strength. The door to the room burst open, and their parents rushed in, followed by hospital staff. The sight of the monstrous spider sent them into a frenzy. The doctors and nurses tried to pull Ellie back, but she fought them off, determined to protect Noah. "No, let me go, I have to save him," she yelled, her voice filled with desperation. Her father grabbed her, pulling her away from the bed. "Ellie, we need to get out of here, it's too dangerous!" But Ellie refused to leave Noah behind. "I can't leave him! Please, you have to help him!" The hospital staff struggled to comprehend what was happening, but one of the doctors, a young woman with a determined look in her eyes, stepped forward. "We need to sedate the boy and get that thing away from him." Leggy sensed the threat and hissed, retreating slightly. The doctor moved quickly, injecting Noah with a sedative. As the drug took effect, Noah's body relaxed, and the spider instincts began to wane. "Ellie," Noah's voice was faint but clear in her mind. "Thank you." Leggy screeched in fury, his power over Noah weakening. He lunged at the doctor, but Ellie intercepted him, slashing with the scalpel. The blade found a weak spot in Leggy's armor, and the spider shrieked in pain. "You won't take him," Ellie growled, her fear turning to fierce resolve. "He's my brother, and you can't have him." With a final, desperate lunge, Ellie drove the scalpel deep into Leggy's body. The spider convulsed, his legs twitching and his eyes dimming. With a final telepathic scream, Leggy dissolved into a dark, shadowy mist, vanishing into the ether. Ellie collapsed to the floor, the scalpel clattering from her hand. She was exhausted, but relief flooded through her. She crawled to Noah's side, her hand finding his. "It's over, Noah," she whispered. "You're safe now." Noah's eyes fluttered open, the human consciousness fully returning. He smiled weakly at Ellie. "Thank you, Ellie. You saved me." Their parents rushed to their side, tears of relief streaming down their faces. The hospital staff worked quickly to stabilize Noah, amazed at the rapid improvement in his condition. As the room settled into a calm, Ellie leaned close to Noah and whispered, "We're going to be okay. We'll get through this together." Noah nodded, squeezing her hand. The bond between them had grown stronger through the ordeal, and they knew they could face anything as long as they had each other. And so, dearies, our tale comes to an end. Noah and Ellie faced the darkness and emerged victorious. But remember, sometimes the things that fascinate us can lead us to the brink of horror. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe for more spine-chilling tales. Thank you for watching, and may your nights be free of crawling shadows and sinister whispers.